Hello everyone, this is Carlito Fluito and welcome all of you to a new Raining Rosas podcast episode today with Vittoria De Ferrari Sapetto, which is a half Italian, half Brazilian dancer. She has been living in Brussels for 20 years already. She's a dancer, choreographer, teacher, amazing CV also. Artistic director of Artylogica and the technique and Ki-Contact Technique that she is going to explain us very soon. And she has been teaching all over the world, but now with the COVID is finding some difficulties. She might share some of them with us. She's also working with Seed Academy in the final round of the audition. She has worked with Jan Fabre, with Sidi Larbi, with Akram Khan, with Damien Jalet, so stay tuned to hear her experience. And she has some upcoming projects that she will tell us later, because she has been selected for the European Capital of Culture of 2022, which will happen in Lithuania. And she's looking for dancers, so stay tuned until the end because she's looking for dancers 15, if I'm correct. And she will have different auditions in La Raffinerie in Brussels, and later on the project will take place in Lithuania. So if you are interested in participating with Victoria and working with her, you are welcome to contact her and find all the information. Hello, Victoria. Thank you very much for being here. How are you?
Thank you so much, Carlos. It's really a pleasure. I was really happy when you invited me.
Thank you. You are in Italy at the moment?
Yes, I'm in Italy. I'm in Genova at the moment, yes.
Nice. Well, the COVID, I know, is affecting, so maybe later you can mention a bit of how it's been your experience. But we can start with your formation as dancer, because I think you start very early with the ballet, so how was it?
I started with ballet, but I kind of shift quite soon in other stuff. Actually, I think mainly my real base was traditional African dance. Like at the age of 8, more or less, I started to join a group of African dancers that they came to Genova, in my hometown, in my little dance school, and I started to enjoy a lot that. So I kind of I kept on going doing ballet and modern, but somehow my intention and my energy went completely into traditional African dance. But in that time, everything was much more bubbling in the sense that we didn't have internet and all this new information. So everything that was happening in my own town for me was interesting. So we had a really big history on breakdance here in Genova, because one of the first breakdancer b-boys from the 80s in America was from Genova. So we had a really big group of b-boys already when I was really young. So I would always interact with hip hop and break dancers, and me as an African dancer, we would melt movement. We were creating raga, we didn't even know. Then a few years later, I went for the first time in Paris, and they were teaching these kind of styles that was mixing hip hop and African dance. And I was like, oh, that's insane. So mainly that was my path. So I never did a real traditional school. So I went to search for what I wanted to do all the time, and I really went physically because we didn't have internet. So information was by talking with people and then taking my backpack and then traveling to Paris and then to Brussels. And then when I got to Brussels, I finally kind of find the word that I thought I was belonging to, because it's a place where it's really important, especially at that time, it's really important who you are, what you can bring, what is your personal experience as a person and as an artist. So the fact that I was constantly mixing all these dances was making me a little bit different. And that's why I decided to move there. But I was really young, I was 20. So I thought maybe I could join Parts because it was a really appealing school for me. But at that time, they were doing audition every 2 years. So I arrived and I gave myself 2 years time to understand, to see. maybe I join the school or not. And after 1 year and a half, I started to work. So then I just started to work.
Yeah, but this is already very, very interesting and very important for the listeners to realize like you can build a career as an artist, as a dancer, choreographer, without the need of having a formal education of 3-4 years. Yeah.
But I had to fight double than the others. And for instance, at that time when I had to, you know, when the audition was all old somewhere, if I would have sent my CV, they wouldn't ever accept me. But at that time, it was not so much important because you could still go and present your CV on a paper because it was a different time, not like now.
Yeah.
So what I was doing, even if I would not send any CV, I would go physically to the audition, and even more sometimes saying that I didn't even have my CV printed out, but I was there ready to do the audition. And sometimes they would allow me, sometimes not. Sometimes I would fight, and then they would say, okay, well, okay, just join the audition. And then I would get the job, you know? So that was quite interesting, but I had to really push, you know?
That's good to mention, yeah, the need of push. So also to mention, as a young woman, like the difference between ballet and African, because maybe African is like more masculine, energetic, and ballet is this stereotypical feminine. So how was your experience?
For me, I think both are really interesting and important. And I think we need to have this duality because the things that you learn from African dance, it's a lot on coordination and rhythm that you can apply then into your ballet. And what ballet gives you is the sharpness in lines and space and clarity on movement and understanding of the movement, hip rotation, how to turn. You know, pirouettes are something really specific. Like in African dance, you could turn in different ways, but when you get to know how to turn in ballet, then it's much easier than to completely turn in other possibility. And for the jumps also, like even if in African dance, the actual alignment works in a different way and the foot almost doesn't, the heel almost doesn't touch the floor because the whole weight is a little bit forward and you have more weight on the front, but still you understand when you do the jumps in ballet, you understand how to use the proportion of the feet. So when you get into African dance, you are already ready with your skeleton muscles, you know, like you have a melt. Like I think we should always do both. Like we should always study, I mean, unless you want to become a ballet dancer only, but still nowadays we are not so much into one stereotype because the world goes in a complete mix. So I think they both give you different information that you need, both.
Yeah. So, nice. So how was this first job you got in Brussels? What was it about?
Yeah, my first job was with Arco Renz, and it was really interesting because he opened up to me a all Asian world. He's a choreographer coming out from Parts. He's the first generation of Parts. He was together with Larbi and all these people. But he was really interested in martial art and really Asian culture. So all the training we had was on Suzuki technique, which is the Japanese acting training. And then we had a lot of Qigong, and then we had Tai Chi, and then we started to practice some martial art. We did Kendo. We had a really big, broad, open view on a lot of Asian culture into movements. And that was for me really fantastic because really after that I started to search for martial art, and that's the reason why I still now I keep on training with different martial art, because it's another thing that I found is feeding my inner self but also my dancing and the reason why I'm moving things that sometimes dance has got something interesting on an aesthetic level, but I need some reason why I'm doing that, you know. And martial art give you a lot of answers on questions. So this job was really interesting for that. We had a tour, and yeah, we had, like, it was a clear first time proper job with 3 months and a half creation and then touring and getting to know the professional world.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it was coming from parts, so it would also work a lot with musical rhythm patterns. So I remember we had to count in 60s. So it was a big counting session that for me was a little bit new, but I could make it. So there is a lot of mathematics going on.
So, because the thing of martial arts, it has appeared in other episodes, like for some people, they miss it in their education training. So, from your experience, what would you advise to a dancer that wants to start having inputs from martial art? Do you know about any specific one that they can start?
Yeah, there are several that are definitely interesting for us. If you want to practice martial art for your own training, so not where there is partnering work, I highly recommend Qigong and Tai Chi, these two. Mm-hmm. And if you want to start to work in the partner situation, because actually in a certain moment then you need to actually start to share certain things, because when you start to work with a partner, you create a new pattern in your body, because the partner always give you like a freedom, a bubble where you can explore things that alone you wouldn't go. So if you want to do that, then I would say all the Aikido, Kinomichi, these are more also energetically interesting. So you learn space and contact. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons, if you think about the first contact people, like Steve Paxton, come from Aikido, for instance. So it's really for understanding the space in between and the meeting. So it's really important for that, for understanding visually how to enter in the space of each other. If you really want to work into more in the details of the body, then Sistema, it's really interesting, because there's a mix of all these martial art. I mean, I'm more for this martial art, Sistema, Aikido. These are martial art where you don't work against your enemy, but you work as a response of what the enemy proposed. So it means that the person entered in your space, you accept, and out of that you create something new. And I think this is more appealing for dancers, because if we work in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for instance, can be interesting, but you work with energy a bit against each other. So there is a certain fight, a real fight that is inside that can be a different, as a different connotation from dance. Especially because when you go in this kind of martial art, often people are really frustrated. So it can be quite dangerous, because these people, they really want to fight. They really want, they don't understand that we are studying how to fight, you know, so it's easily that you can get injured. Rather than Kinomichi, Aikido, Sistema, these martial arts are really respecting, they're trying really to respect who you are, and we are there to combine and to work together to understand how it works and how it functions. So the actual side of the fight, it is still there, but it's not the primary reason why we are there.
Yeah. I see.
So I think this is something that on us it created differences, because we are dancers, we are not there. We are fighters, definitely, fighters of the word, but we don't want to create that kind of fight, you know. So I found that more interesting. Or I also practice since quite some times Kalari Payattu, which is an Indian martial art from south of India. And I really like their physical training. It's really intense. But for instance, when they start to work into with the arms, like with objects, they have a real clear choreography that they work on. So when they go on tour, they never improvise. And this is something that, for instance, I don't like so much, because I like more like in a partnering work, I like to work with possibility. Like even if we call a technique and we work on that technique, but there is a little freedom, there is improvisation inside, because we are two people. It's all about me and the other person in front. So my knowledge, my energy, and the other person's knowledge and energy. And I think this is, for me, more appealing and more fun.
Yeah.
Instead of learning a choreography on tour, you know?
Yeah, I understand. To train, all the other body and mind skills around
yes,
the
also
movement.
to work the instinct more. Like if you always practice something that they tell you, you look at it and you look at the technique and it's only about that, there is still, I mean, you learn for sure the meeting and how to do it, but at the same time, you learn a choreography that you can apply, but actually you learn into something. It's like learning like steps, no? When we learn steps, it's something, but when we start to improvise, it's something else. Even within the choreography that we learn, we take a technique, but then we make it on our own. And this is for me what is more appealing.
Yeah, definitely. I understand. Nice.
Yeah.
So then how was your transition from this company to the other ones?
That is it is interesting, because my whole journey was quite slow, because I didn't do a school. So I had to pass through different situation of life as well, because, for instance, when I was 23, I was in Berlin and I got my first real contract. It was like a 2.5 years contract with like world tour, but it was a really specific work, and I had some trouble with the choreographer. It was going into some sexuality problem with me, so it was entering in all a sphere that we talk a lot lately, into the Me Too group. So I was really close to all this situation, and I said, no, I don't want this. So I quit when I was 23. I quit totally a contract of 2.5 years, like this. So it was big. It was a choice of life, because after that, in that company, I remember all the people that they were with me after that contract, they could get all the companies, the big companies all over the world, because it was the trampoline, you know. So I decided to not go for that. Like my dignity was way too important. So it was a real choice. And it took me much longer then. It took me longer because I didn't have this trampoline where you go and you dance in the biggest festival in the world. I had to go gradually. So, and in a certain moment, I was even fed up. I've got injuries. When I was 28, I got injury in my knee, and I felt frustrated by what was happening around me, that as a female, it's extremely strong, and you really see how much female they sell themselves to get jobs all the time. All my environment, half of my friends, they were just sleeping with one choreographer or being a girlfriend of one of a dancer of a company, and then they would just get into the company, you know? I was going for the whole audition as a stranger, and I would go from day one till the end. And if I got the job, it's because they need me. So it was taking much longer time, but once I reached that, it was real. Like when I did the audition for Jan Fabre, we were 600 women, and he was searching for one.
Nice.
So like when I've got that, for me was a clear, I achieved what I was searching for. And even more with someone that I respect a lot, even if he did all this shit around with all these women, I know, but with me it was really clear because I already passed that in my life. So when I arrived to work with him, for me it was totally fine. I never had problem with him because I was different. because I didn't allow certain things to happen. And then once you get into one of these company, it's super easy because you start to just get into big festivals and you start to meet up people and they start to look at you because they go and they come to see the show. So they see how you move, they see how you are. Suddenly you exist.
Yeah.
It's like you are visible from the world. And then I actually did, every time I did audition. I did audition for Akram Khan, I did audition for Larbi. The only person that calls me to work with was Damien Jalet, because he really knew me. Actually, he met me even before Jan Fabre took me. Damien met me in Impulse Dance. No, actually, Damien met me because I went with Rakesh. I was assisting Rakesh Sukesh, give classes of Kalari Payatu to the company of Eastman. And Damien saw me there and he started to kind of like, he was curious about me and he wanted to know more. And then he met me in Impulse Dance. And then after 1 month, I started to work with Fabre. So then he followed me up really closely. And so he was really wishing to work with me. And he really came to me and said, I want to work with you. But the rest, I did audition all the time.
Nice.
All
So
the
then to recover this Me Too aspect, so imagine what message would you give to a young woman that is a dancer that starts finding herself in this type of situation?
Well, I think it's really important that, first of all, you know who you are. Because if you don't know what you want, who you are, what are your principles, for me, everything is fine. We are free to choose what we want. The only things that I say to a woman, like, if you want to go for a different kind of path and you really want to please yourself also, because I mean, sex is also something that pleases you. And if you want to go to another experience in that sense, it's fine. I don't mind. But then don't go to Me Too the day after. Like, because there is something I think women are strong enough. We don't need to be victim. We don't need to put ourselves in a victim situation. If we keep on doing that, we will always remain vulnerable.
Yeah.
If we always shout to the world, this happened, this Me Too happened, and these things happen, and it's in any case it's happened. It happened. It will happen still in every field. Men, women, men to women, women to men, child. It's getting really mixed up. Age, gender, everything. And I don't think we can stop certain things, but we can understand who we are and what we want and what is important for us and be really coherent with that. That's it. Then it's a choice. Of course, this is my choice. I choose personally that I didn't want to go to that because I wanted to achieve my ambition because of my strength as a dancer, as a performer, as an artist. I wanted to have this integrity, but that was my choice. Doesn't mean that everyone has that choice. You can choose what you want. What I'm saying is, the day after, don't come and say that was too much or Me Too and blah, 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 because I don't believe that. I don't trust, because things are made on two. The fault is on both sides always, you know? And of course, people that has more power, they have more power, so they should be careful on what they do. But the person that says yes, it says yes because they want to achieve something out of that power. So somehow I do believe that we just need to be clear with our intention and who we are, and that's it. It's not easy what I'm saying, that's why. Especially at 20, you don't know who you are. So first discover who you are and what you like, and what is your need, and what is your principle, and what are your thoughts, your beliefs. Question yourself, put yourself in situation maybe. Some people, they need to also get into certain situation to understand who they are. And I did the same.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good. There you go. So then between like what's the experience of working with these big companies? Because many times the dream of a dancer is working for this famous company. So what has been your experience?
Well, my experience was amazing, of course. There are always moments where the expectation is always bigger than what it happened in real. And sometimes the opposite. So it's quite revealing, I would say, every time you get into this situation. What is really, for me, incredible is to see how a big machine, how it works, you know, how they orchestrate all these amount of things, because there is not only dancers, there is music, light, technical stuff, and bureaucracy behind. And so to see all this amount of work, and we all work for this to happen, I found it magical. And I think it's really sad that somehow the new generation, they see this as a little bit as a dream, and they find it so far that they think it's better to work for yourself and to always keep on thinking on creating your own voice and your own, which is good and I think is needed. But at the same time, when you have a little bit of experience on a big company, actually becomes easier to build up what you want after as an individual. So, and also because when we start to direct, if you have been in a big company and you see how people interact, you see the social part of it, you need a big skill on how to embrace personalities and how to embrace different people, to how to connect them and to make them trust you. This is something that you learn a lot when you are in the other side and you see your choreographer, director, really famous and big, that does all this. Because it's something that some people has it as a talent, which is great, but most of us doesn't know that. So I do believe it's a great experience. I've got, for me, it was incredible because I didn't have schools before. So for me, each choreographer that I work with, it gave me what I am today. So I'm really thankful for all this journey that I've been through, because they teach me everything. I learn everything, and I learn it right immediately on spot, on stage, in big stage, improvising on stage, having freedom to choose your solo on stage. You know, like how many times with Fabre we had some tasks and my solo was almost all improvised. And if I would repeat certain things, it would come to me and the day after give me another task to work on something new, to still renew myself and be on stage and always be creatively and even more further going somewhere, you know? So these are things, and you are in front of thousands and thousands of people and you do that. Imagine what a luxury situation. It's really different if you do an improvisation in front of 10 people or in a dance studio with people, or if you do it in the street. Everything has a different connotation. And actually when you get into these kind of big stages and you still have that freedom and you feel that freedom, because that's also something that for me was incredible and magical. These people, they work so much with you that when you go on stage, you are still embracing the same idea. So you don't get the stress. I mean, you have the stress of performing, of course, that's normal. But in that moment, you feel the real creativity. Like you're really into that motion, and there is no judgment in that moment. There is just you creating, improvise, going for it with all this audience in front. So it's magical. I think the whole experience, I would love to repeat it in a loop for all my life.
Nice. So if you had to choose one of these big names of big choreographers, big directors, in both aspects, the professional and the human aspect, which you mentioned, which do you think is your, like, the reference, like the person to become?
it's hard for me to say one. I had several people, and also like it's also hard to find both, like someone that really inspired me. I mean, there are few that I've been working, like Romeo Castellucci, for instance, is someone that has an incredible view, and it's also an incredible human being. Alain Platel, it's another case of an incredible person and as well a credible artist. But I also like certain other artists that they are incredible, but maybe as a person they have a little bit more issues. You know, like it's hard to really spot. Like I love the work of Marlene Monteiro Freitas, but I just got to talk to her just once. I love Meg Stewart, and she asked me to work to be part of her creation once, and it was not possible for me. And I hope one day I would be on a studio with her again in my life, but I don't know how she works.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. Like from your experience with Akram, with Sidi Larbi, with Jan Fabre, like what are the good positive aspects that you find on them that you think like every choreographer should have?
Well, for sure, the respect that they have on us as a dancer. It's something that I think in a lower level, I hardly had. Like, surprisingly, when sometimes I was working for a really smaller choreographer, they would treat me as a shit, you know? And actually, all these big names, they care about you. They're really human in that sense. Sometimes, of course, it's more, if they lose it, it's because of the work as itself. Sometimes the work is so big, so massive, that they have so many things to deal with that the priority is still the dancers, but there are so many other things to set up that somehow your part become a little bit smaller. But I never felt completely left over, and no one would accuse me or treating me bad in that sense, ever. Things that actually, when I was working for smaller choreographers, sometimes it helped, you know. But it's also, I think it's also a matter of how you are, because the same choreographers sometimes with other people, they were not behaving the same, you know. So it's also a matter of, as always, relationship, it's made by two people.
Yeah.
So you can work with the most terrible person in the world and having a great experience, and maybe the next person comes and he has a nightmare. I worked with one choreographer that I loved a lot, and he was a real talent. His name is Andy Denez. He's also from really first generation of arts, and he was the duet person with Ennio Greco. Ennio Greco became famous because of a duet that he did with this guy. His name is Andy. Andy, it was a special case. Someone with a really, really difficult character. A lot of people would come and cry out, because he was maybe having 5 minutes of madness, and in these 5 minutes was saying whatever, and people would react really bad. He never had a fight with me, ever. And we worked together 4 years, you know? So it's a lot on how you are as well, and how you put yourself into the work, you know? Some people allowed things to happen. So
then, like, if you can mention like some tips or advices from the part of the dancer to build this positive relationship with the choreographer, what would you say?
Yes.
What are the attitudes that the dancer or the performer has to have towards the?
Well, that's a skill that you have to get. There is not a recipe. I'm sorry to say. If we would have a recipe for everything, it would be amazing. But unfortunately, this is a human skill, I think. It's something that you have also when I'm working with my students. I realize that, you know, like it's a human skill on empathy. I think empathy has got a lot. So when you put yourself in the situation of the other person and you start to see the situation in his eyes or in her eyes, then you would have a different way of thinking, and then your solution would, or your answer would be different because you think about the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe one recipe that I could say, like put yourself in the other situation to get to understand eventually how to function in the moment. But it's something that comes, I mean, to me, it's something that is natural on me. I always adapt myself in every situation in my life.
Yeah.
Even if, you know, like I was not talking English or French and I arrived in Brussels at 20 and I made it, you know, so it's...
Nice. So empathy and adaptability, good ones.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So then we can move to more of your more personal, like work and more personal techniques also. So you want to mention about Artylogica and Ki-Contact?
Yes. Well, it's always interesting to give names on your techniques because I do believe what we do somehow it's quite similar to what we belong to, you know. So Artylogica for me, it's a mix. When I teach Artylogica, it's a mix of all the knowledge that I got until here, maybe. So sometimes it can be much more physical theater, sometimes can be technique, sometimes can be improvisation, sometimes can be composition, sometimes, you know, and inside of that, I use information that I got from martial art, from all these paths that I had, from African dance and relationship and everything. So it's quite of a broad workshop that I propose. And I also relate a lot to who I have in front. So I see the people that they are coming, and related to that, I can understand what is the best exercise to propose. Like I want them to go forward or to discover something that they don't know yet. So then I would go in that direction. So I'm almost feeling like somehow a mentor for people in the sense of not as a master, but as a co-worker. Like I'm here for doing my job, but at the same time, my job change and adapt because of you. So every time I'm coming, I have a work with the people first. I see who I have in front, and then we try to make it. And Ki-Contact, it's a completely like a specific, a little bit more specific technique because it's a work on a couple, and it's made out with dancing with a wooden stick. It's called jaw in Aikido, Kinomichi. Mm-hmm. And it's a 1.20 meters long stick. And we actually use it in martial art, Aikido and Kinomichi. But we develop it together with Andrea Valfré. We develop a way to use the martial art, but to implement partnering technique and contact technique. So out of that, we really create a way of moving that has a clear technique skill, which is really specific and not so easy to get. But then out of that, we started to use the sticks as an object to implement and create in a creation mode something else. So that's the reason why the new project that I'm doing is based on that. So it means that we work with the technique itself. So there are moments where we are going to dance this kind of technique, but then we are going to explore the use of the sticks in a visual aspect, in an architectural aspect, in a sound aspect, because it creates sounds as well. So there are like many layers that we started to apply with. So it became an object that has like 1,000 meaning at the same time. Yeah. That can be related on two, but can be related in a group. So we use it also as a group, and all these sticks in a group, what it can be, you know, like all these relationships are explored. And when we teach the workshop of Ki-Contact, we really go through all these improvisation and exercises and theater situation out of that technique.
Wow, sounds nice. So then, because I'm also interested, you have worked during the process, during the audition process for different companies, and also you are auditioning. So, I mean, you are receiving, you want to audition. So what is what the choreographer of a director is looking for. Like, it's too general question, I suppose, because
Yes.
every project is one thing. But just to
Yeah,
give like
that's an interesting part. Like, I mean, unless you know the work of a choreographer really well, then you have maybe eventually an idea. But you never know. I mean, normally artists are always searching for each project. Normally they are searching for different things. So maybe they have a style, but for instance, my own creation, every time I go through a process of a creation, I need completely different dancers. So there is not like a kind of a
prototype.
look or something or skills, or it depends really on the need of the project. So first is the project, the importance on the task and the content and what is the project about, and then out of that I create the cast. There are many choreographers that they work in that way, and there are also certain others that they have types somehow, you know, like that they kind of have, because also what is different, I think, if you have a clear way of moving, like there are certain companies that they have a kind of a signature in movement, you know, like Wim van de Keibus always work on the floor and jump and do certain things. So normally he would love to have a dancer that can do that, but then maybe other stuff, because he needs in every project different things. People like Jan Fabre, he always need a person that can go really far into physicality, but also in ideas and visual aspect, and maybe also text and singing. So there are certain kind of stereotype eventually, but still also in Fabre you can have really different dancers and actors working that has been work that they don't really get similar, you know. So I think it's a lot on the project. Alain Platel is someone that first think about the dramaturgy of a project. He talks with the dramaturg first, they work together, and then out of the dramaturgy and the idea and the concept, they know how many dancers and which kind of dancers they need. Then they do audition. Akram also lately is getting much more into that, like, because he started to work more and more with dramaturgy, and then he works first mentally on a concept, and then out of that, then he chooses the dancers. So it's getting more and more that way. So unless you know the project, then you can understand if you are the right dancer or the possible dancer, you know. Otherwise, it's difficult.
So in your case, because you are looking for 15 dancers, so just to give an idea.
Yeah, for me, well, it's quite clear that I need to understand if these people can work on partnering with the sticks. This is definitely like the work in a certain moment will go in that direction. So I need people that physically can understand the technique that we are using. And but then of course I almost also open up, I don't know, like out of 15, if there is one person that doesn't have maybe so much skill on that, but has a different skill that interests me, it could also work, you know. So I'm sure I will have quite various typology, but for sure I need a lot of women and men to work together. So I need people that can get to work together and find each other. You know, sometimes when you work in couple, like you need to have a good connection with someone. Maybe I like one girl, but I don't find a good partner, a male partner that could work with her, or a women partner can be also. It can be like I need to find the couple that can work together. If they work together, then they can go, you know. So it's not about gender, it's not so much about being a good dancer, bad dancer. There is no good, there is no bad ever. It's about how you connect. So it's gonna be complicated. That's why I'm really looking forward, but at the same time I'm a bit stuck right now, because all this winter was all over fully booked on Ki-Contact workshop all over the world to search more and more people, you know, and everything got cancelled because of the COVID. So and also like we have all this tour and schedule audition and everything, but because of this situation and its contact, so we work somehow a little bit close.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting now to see if I can do it, how, when, and yeah.
So now about the more production aspect, because you were selected in the European Capital of Europe of culture, European Capital of Culture. So how is to apply for this type of projects? So how is possible to, what is the process?
Yes, actually I decided to be in that sense a freelancer. So I don't have my own company. It's a choice because I don't want to depend on anyone. So it was interesting because I went in Lithuania. They invited me to work with a company there. And I started to work with the whole company, and the company were really into me. They wanted to work with me. Mm-hmm. So at that time, this European Capital of Culture was, the project was just announced. So this company has a structure and has a people working for them. So they have a production house and everything. And they asked me to be part of this project, and they told me, can you be the choreographer and we do the logistic part? Yeah. So they give the space, they might give some of the dancers of the company, but not 15, they don't have 15 dancers. So so there is this co-production. So I just had to send all the material that I create out of the Ki-Contact, because I've been researching this in the last 4 years. And I'm creating already pieces every time I go at Seed, or if I go in a other formation program where they ask me to choreograph, I always work on this topic. So I already create different, I stage already many times the same idea in a different way, in a different context in the world. So I could send videos, I could send the written idea, and then they made the whole dossier and they got selected. But it's a blend, you know, like I also brought into the project my own light designer, my own musician composer, people that I worked with in my past that I really rely, artists that they are, for me, really incredible, and I respect them a lot, and I look forward to work with them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Good to know also, because many times this distribution or production aspect is a very tiring, no? But it seems like in your case you find this collaboration. Yes. So yeah, and that facility also, like working with a company that belongs to the country where the events are going to happen.
But at the same time, it gives me total freedom, because like when you start to work and to have co-production and money from governments, unfortunately, you are not that free. Yeah. There are a lot of things that you cannot do, or you can do, or you are obliged to do. And somehow, like the way how I work, I prefer to be free. I prefer to have no reference in one spot. I like to travel. I don't want to be, because the problem of when you build up certain things like that, you become more settled, because maybe you belong to, money comes from one place, so you have to be more or less in that place. You cannot just go all over the world all the time sharing your ideas and your creativity where you want. And I'm someone that chooses for that option. Like I prefer much more to travel. I prefer to be free. I prefer to have that kind of cultural exchange all the time, even if maybe the money that I get, it's rather a little bit less, because of course when you start to build up your company, you have your own stability. You can think, you know, you can rely on money that comes regularly every year or something. And I don't want to have that kind of set up mind, because my mind is, I want to go there, I want to work with these people, I want to stay there maybe 1 month more to work with another group that I met, that I want to work. I go in a place and I search also. Maybe the beginning I go because I got invited, but then when I arrive, I meet other artists, and then I want to collaborate with other artists. And I want to be free to maybe actually have the time to do that. So I'm someone that build up in a different way my journey. It's much more unstable for sure, and it's a different choice. Like I'm constantly on a suitcase. So some people like to have more stability and establishment, you know, like it's a real choice of life.
Yeah. I have just to close, I have 3 questions, but I think you already sort of answered some of them during the talk. But if you want to give like a brief responses, so what would you say to a person that is thinking about getting an education for several years? Because your story is different, but you also mentioned like having the education is valuable. So what could be?
I think there are many possibilities right now. There are many different formation schools, private, not private. I think the place that they are for me valuable is the places that they are a little bit more open-minded, in the sense that they don't get into places where they had really the same teacher since 20 years. Sometimes I would rather maybe think about it. Like I prefer a place that rather change more often their teachers and choreographer, and places where they also mix up with different kind of styles eventually, that they make you try different things, and places where you have time to also develop a little bit your own skills inside, like where the program allowed you also through the time of the 3 or 4 years education, that you have a moment where you can really think and be more concentrate on something that you can do on your own. So you work with different people, but you have also a little bit of time for yourself where you can dig and start to research on your own while being in the education. I think places that they have got that formula are more interesting and appealing.
Nice.
Rather than more conservative way of thinking where you have the same teacher for maybe the whole year, or maybe 6 months you have the same teacher and then another 6 months another teacher. These places, I think they're more a little bit less update on what is the market now, I would say.
Yeah, I see. Also, I already asked you more or less, so a person that goes to many auditions and she's not going through or he's not going through, what is your message to this person?
Well, often there are 2 things, I think. One is you were not in the right place. And second of all, maybe it's who you are, maybe is not related to that environment also. Like it's the things that we were saying about understanding who you are and what you can give and what are your possibilities. I think it's all related to that. Some people, maybe they have expectation about themselves and they don't mirror themselves, and they need to go to audition in order to face and see what is the surrounding, so that they can understand where they should work and how they should go. Some people, maybe they already did that, so they know who they are, but maybe they are just not in the right spot at the right time. Some people, they wanted too much. I was a fighter like crazy, and many times in my life I arrived till the end of audition and I would not get the job because they told me I was too much. Too much, many times, because sometimes we want certain things so hard that we start to belong to this energy of hunger. People that they are in front, they feel almost attacked. I would say there is something that is too aggressive sometimes, and even the person that loves aggressivity but still is maybe saying, hey, that's like, I don't want to, because you just belong, you make them think that you belong to these kind of dances that is always like that. Being hunger doesn't mean that you have to show this all the time everywhere and in every audition. So auditions are also a place where I would go, where I would first think of meeting people. For me, audition is the perfect moment where I met my best friends, where I met my best collaborators in the future later on, where I met people that they give me information that I'm still thankful for. You know, like that's the reason why first I go to audition. The second reason why I go to audition is to get the job, but it's the second reason. It's not the first. You know, I think this would a little bit change. I know that people would say, yeah, but you know, I spend money on this. I understand, but I do believe that sometimes I learn more from an audition than in a workshop. Rather, I would take sometimes, it depends, of course, which kind of audition. If it's one day audition, not. But if you know that the audition has 4 or 5 days time to develop something and to work with the choreographer, then I think it's really reliable and it's sometimes even better than a workshop.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, different approach. I like it. And finally, you mentioned also something. This young performer, he's thinking about creating his own performances, his own career. You mentioned that it's good to participate with the big companies to understand like the work with a director and the whole production. So what message would you give to this person?
Well, of course, it's always good to keep on creating on your own, and but once in your life it would be nice to actually get into something where it's not you that organize everything, but you are an interpreter of a bigger machine. Once in your life, it can be also later on. It doesn't have to be always when you're 20. You know, I think the life of a performer, I mean, a dancer in the sense of physically dancing, of course, I understand it's more short, but being a performer and moving, you can do it until really long time. Yeah. If you train and if you keep on being healthy and you take care of yourself. Of course, I'm a woman that doesn't have kids as a choice. And, you know, so it's also like, it's really depend on what you, as always, what you want and what you feel it's good for you. So, and I'm really respecting all the choices. But for sure, as a young creator, it's good to keep on going, but doesn't mean that you close doors. I think if we close doors, it means that we close also something in our mind. And I think doors should always be open somehow. At least open to curiosity, open maybe just even to go in the audition and see, you know, once in a while, even myself, once in a while, I like to go in an audition, even if I don't want the job, but just also to understand what happened right now, because times is changing. I'm someone that will go and take a workshop with some of my colleagues or even my students. I go and take sometimes workshop with my students that they were my past students and now they become incredible like dancers for companies and they teach in the same festival as me. I'm really happy to go and take their classes. You know, like I think if we keep these open doors all the time in our brain, it's a possibility of getting to achieve information. If we start to close up and to before ahead, we start to say this, no, this, no. It's good to have vision and know what you like, but doesn't mean that we have to judge ahead. I think it's good to try out still. Nice. And I think it's really reliable to put yourself in situation where you are a beginner, because sometimes we forget about what it means, what is the beauty of it. It's so beautiful to be a beginner. Because you understand you have so much to learn again. Yes. It's fantastic. It's one of my best feeling every time I go in a new place where I meet new people and when I start a new dance practice or a new martial art or something where I don't know anything. I'm so happy because I'm so beginner. Yeah. I have I can learn. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I came up with a sentence years ago. It was the gift of the ignorance, no? Like ignorance is these infinite things. But those that are ignorant have the possibility of learning things. Those that believe they have all the knowledge, they cannot learn anymore. So, yeah.
And they will repeat themselves. And this is what is something that I'm facing myself, because I do repeat already myself many times, because sometimes I don't have time always to learn, and sometimes situation of my life made it in a way that I cannot always be in that situation, you know, and I'm sad. So that's also why in my way of being, I try to keep this freedom out of everything, so that I always can have moments out of my daily teaching and choreographing and everything, that I have my little spaces where I can go, I disappear from the world, and I do my own research on my own martial art or my own training somewhere else in India or in China or wherever it is. But you know, like I'm always hunger to find that somehow, like, and I'm wishing, and I'm like, I'm teaching and choreographing and thinking how beautiful it's going to be again this moment when I will go and do that for myself.
Yes. So, Vittoria, do you want to share a message, or maybe how people can contact you, or what is this process of audition?
Well, people can contact me if they want, of course. Facebook, it's always easy because it's my full name, Vittoria De Ferrari Sapetto. Instagram also, and I think in Instagram I'm only Vittoria De Ferrari. I don't have yet a website. I'm thinking to do one. I'm getting to understand that I should have one. So I will work on it. I will keep you posted. And I mean, I always post things mainly there, Facebook and Instagram. Then, of course, I can give also my email address in case someone wants to contact me more personally. It's vittoria.deferrarisapetto all together @gmail.com. In case they want to have more maybe specific things or sending something specific. Otherwise, for the audition, the first round audition that is well set, it's in La Raffinerie in Brussels. It's 1 week, and it's in Easter. So hopefully 2021, hopefully it should happen. And we have a previous round of selection, like a pre-selection in Italy, in CIT, which is a big choreographical center in Rovereto, up in the north of Italy. And out of these two, then we will find some people, and then I hope that I can have another one. But at the moment, everything got frozen. But then the first part of the work and the callback will be in summertime 2021 in Lithuania. And that is going to be the callback where we will find the group. Then the work, it's in 2022, summertime again.
Nice. It will happen. I'm pretty sure it will happen.
Yes, I think so. On that sense, I'm quite positive because, yeah, I'm quite positive. I have also plan B on having different things, but I don't want to, like, I'm convinced.
Wonderful, Vittoria, wonderful. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for all your wisdom.
Having me and for everything. And it's really beautiful that you are doing this, because it's not often that people want to organize this kind of talks. And I think now it's valuable, really valuable.
To keep performing art in one way or another, to keep on moving.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Victoria. I hope to see you very soon. Ciao, ciao.
Yes, and enjoy your time and your experience as well.
I will. Thank you.